Hello and welcome, star people. This is APM, your intrepid star guide. This is Outlaw Astrology Podcast, episode 161. And we are on the final episode in the Beyond the Golden Dawn series, where we've learnt to question, reimagine, and reclaim our astrological tarot correspondences as thinking mystics rather than obedient students. So, today's focus is the Judgment and the World cards. These are the two cards of culmination and awakening and completion. Examining their Golden Dawn assignments, Fire/Pluto and Saturn/Earth. Okay? And so exploring radical alternatives and asking what it means to truly end a cycle in our own lives. Housekeeping, this is the last episode in this series, but not the end of critical thinking. Every reading, every correspondence, every inherited system deserves your intelligent scrutiny and discernment. Alrighty, so we're hanging out on Pinterest and Instagram, link in the show notes. There is a free and paid version of the Daily Stargazer newsletter. There is a large archive, over 500 posts and 80 episodes of the podcast. So there's a lot going on behind that wall. Feel free to sign up. This episode and all previous episodes in this series are free if you prefer to read rather than listen, or read as well as listen. And lastly, sharing the podcast with those of interest. Reviewing, give us 5 stars, helps us get found by other people with greater ease. And wherever you listen to your podcasts. And reviewing, also very helpful, because it gets the word out about us. And thank you very much for those of you who've done so, and for those who might, thank you very much in advance for that. And now, onward. Okay, so we're starting with Judgment, Fire, Pluto, and the awakening that cannot be characterized. So that's the question. One more time, Fire, Pluto, and the awakening that cannot be categorized. So, the Golden Dawn assignment is Judgment. And that is, Judgment equals fire, the fire element. That's spirit and transformation. Often paired with Pluto in modern interpretation. So, death, birth, karmic reckoning, underworld, resurrection. So we're going to acknowledge the power. Okay, so fire is spiritual awakening. Pluto is the irrevocable transformation. They both capture Judgment's intensity. In its absolute nature, it's you cannot unknow what you now know quality. Okay, so let's question the inevitability. Does Judgment always feel fiery? Is it always Plutonian, destruction, resurrection, or can awakening be gentle, gradual, merciful? Let's explore some alternatives. So, Uranus, it could be the sudden revelation, a lightning bolt awareness, the radical shift to consciousness. It could be Neptune, spiritual grace, divine forgiveness, dissolution of the ego. The Moon, cyclical return, ancestral calling, soul memory, or no planet. Judgment as the moment consciousness recognizes itself across all lifetimes. And so I chose Venus eventually. Okay, and it used to be the Moon, but I changed it, and that will be a new discussion for a later time. So Venus is the moment as we judge ourselves worthy of love, beauty, belonging. Judgment as self-reconciliation rather than a cosmic verdict. Venus as the mirror that finally shows us our true face without distortion. This is the awakening that comes to recognizing our inherent value rather than earning it through fire. Now, I'm going to say that this is subject to change. This is how it is right now. This is a process rather than a method, per se. A method suggests that I've got it pinned down, and this is how it's going to be forever and ever, and amen. And that's just not the case. It's constantly evolving as I evolve, constantly changing as I change, and my intention here is to have a living system that changes as we change, as we ask questions, as we answer those questions, and those questions lead to other questions, because, as to quote Trinity, or at least paraphrase her, it is the questions that drive us. So, let's look at some personal inquiry. So think of your own judgment moments. Were they fiery, destructive? Were they Uranian, and instant, Neptunian, and mystical, Venusian, and self-loving? Or were they something else entirely? Perhaps the moon, and intuitive, okay? Did they feel like punishment or homecoming? Let's step on into the judgment and the politics of reckoning. Whose judgment matters? Okay, so let's examine the card's traditional imagery. It's an angel blowing a trumpet, the dead rising from graves. They're literally standing naked in graves with their arms up in the air, looking up at the angel. It's Christian resurrection mythology. Whose story is this? Whose awakening gets centered? Well, we know who, because look at the card. It's Christian. It's Western. And it doesn't invite in many other perspectives as far as I'm concerned. Okay? So, let's complicate the narrative. Judgment has been weaponized by religions, empires, and moral authorities to control behavior through fear. Can we reclaim it as a self-awareness rather than external verdict? So let's explore judgment as sovereignty. Okay? The moment you judge yourself worthy of your own life, your own choices, your own power, not waiting for God, guru, institution to grant permission. So let's talk about collective judgment. This card can represent social reckoning. It can represent truth-telling after silence or deception. It can represent communities holding power accountable. Judgment as liberation, not as condemnation. It can also be redemption, a second chance after a choice. You know, it doesn't have to be you effed up irretrievably, burn eternally, okay? It could be a very different narrative. It could be, okay, I totally effed that up. Let me have a sit and a rethink. And let's reassess and source out which direction we're going to go in. Because it doesn't have to be a stuck, bound, forever thing, okay? And so what we want to do here is, if the judgment still feels oppressive in your readings, it might be time to assign it entirely or work with it as awakening rather than judgment. Language shapes consciousness. Let me say that again. Language shapes consciousness. One more time. Language shapes consciousness. Say it with me. Language shapes consciousness. When you're looking at the card, any of these cards, any of them, you must also note not just what you think about the card, but what it makes you feel. Because that is information, not something you need to hide from, not something you need to run away from, something you just need to be aware of. So if you look at the Tower card and you feel fear, that fear is information. You need to investigate further, gently, softly. If you got anger there, you need to investigate that too, also gently and softly, because it's far more bitey in energy and reactive than, say, merely fear. Those are survival emotions which remind me of a cornered animal. That's why the gentleness is necessary. Yeah? Okay. So when we're looking at judgment, I'm not interested in judgment in which I feel suppressed and oppressed. And here's with me, if anger shows up, that means that's one of my parts, the shadow part, speaking is saying, nope, that's a boundary violation. That's not working for me. No, no, no. And an attempt to force it to work or to make myself accept something makes that part tend to act out more. Now, what am I talking about? I'm talking about depth psychology, Jungian inspired and informed depth psychology, in which you would talk to the parts of yourself as if they're people, which is what tarot is useful for. The face cards or any of these cards can be representations of those part of yourselves, the part that feels fearful or angry, etc. And so I'm not interested in cards that feel oppressive. I'm not interested in being told what to feel, what to think, what to do, who to be and who to become, and neither should you, which is why this is a safe place to start asking questions outside of the framework you've been handed, because this type of inquiry can be used in many different places in your life. This is just the low-stakes, safest place to start it off and set it off, because for me, astrology and tarot are meaning-making. And it helps me understand myself far more deeply. And because it's low stakes, I can push back here and thereby teach my nervous system that anger will not kill me, fear will not destroy me, and this thing, this card, the judgment card, isn't a threat. It's just a piece of paper with an image on it. And that is training the nervous system to expand its emotional range and also understand that not everything that feels uncomfortable is a threat. Okay? So, is the card, the judgment card, feeling more awakening or judgment? I'm looking for more of an awakening than a judgment thing. I don't need more judgment in my life. I can do that with my eyes closed whilst lying prone in my bed with the lights off. I don't need more practice on how to do that. I need to free myself from that particular framework, which is why it doesn't work for me. So what works for you? Okay, let's move on to the World card, and that is Earth, Saturn, or the infinite dance beyond completion. Okay, so let's review that Golden Dawn assignment. The world equals Saturn, completion, mastery, culmination, cosmic order, and Earth, the Earth element, manifestation, embodiment, and material reality. Yum, yum, yum. So, affirm the fit. Let's do that right now. Okay, so let's affirm that fit. Saturn and Earth capture the world's sense of arrival, its integration, its wholeness, made manifest. It's the dancer at the center of the wreath, surrounded by four elements, finally in a sort of a harmony, as it were. But let's push past that. Let's push this boundary. Let's test it. Is the World card truly an ending, or is it a moment before the fool steps off the cliff again? Does Saturn's rigidity limit the card's ecstatic, boundless quality? Can't wait to get my fingers in this. Explore alternatives now. So let's do Neptune. Mystical union, dissolution into oneness, the veil removed. The sun, perhaps, radiant completion, self-actualization, conscious wholeness. I like the sun as this card because the dancer in the center suggests a vital creativity, which I think is very Sun and Leo-like. I would also say Uranus could be possible here, or no planet. The world as the mandala, the yantra, the sacred geometry beyond astrology, beyond tarot, beyond numerology, etc. Okay, so my choice is currently Jupiter. Jupiter as expansion into cosmic belonging, the completion that opens rather than closes, the world as a generous abundance and infinite possibility within form. This is the dancer that has mastered the elements and now dances for joy rather than achievement. Jupiter as the promise that wholeness includes everything, excludes nothing, and always has room for more. I like Jupiter because the ending is in the beginning. You see, Saturn's like, this is the end, roll credits. Jupiter's like, hold on. If you think this is the end, then you've seriously not been paying attention. You've not been living life, because there is no real ending in this particular metaphorical ocean that we are swimming in. That the end implies the beginning, and the beginning implies the end. They are part of the, that the infinity symbol that you will see in both the Magician card and the Two of Pentacles card. It's energy that's constantly feeding on the other. It's called, it's like the Tao energy, light, dark, etc. But they feed on each other and become yet a third emergent thing. Jupiter suggests a third emergent thing, meaning something that comes after this expands. It expands beyond this, but it's not this. It's not what came before. It's not this. It's some emergent thing that could never have happened without the experience we already had as we made it through the major arcana. Okay? So, let's experiment. Try reading the world's Jupiter for the month, and does it shift from you've finished to you've opened into something far more vast? Notice how the correspondence shapes the interpretation, okay? Or, if you prefer, you may use the Sun, you may use Neptune, you may use Uranus, you may use any correspondence that you feel in your body feels like a click, like a lightness maybe. For me, it's a lightness, it's a click, it's a sense of yes. For this moment, this is a yes sort of feel. It feels light and liberating, okay? So whatever that right feeling is for you, that right feeling, step into it, lean into it, just for that lunar cycle to see, which would be about 28 to 29 days, to see which feels right. Does it open things up? Because what we're trying to do is open things up, not close things. I have a problem with Saturn. Saturn suggests a definitive end. Yes, sometimes that does happen, but endings in this world are never that definitive. That only happens once in our lives most of the time, and that's the grand ending. As in death, the end of our lives, that's the grand ending. But all the others are usually soft endings that flow into other cycles and other things. And so I feel that my tarot experience and practice must not assume that there's mastery. What is mastery? That's another thing about Saturn. It's mastery. What did you master? It's not possible to master something to the degree that you always know everything about it. You reach a completion point, which Saturn does not do for me. It's too rigid. So, Jupiter for now. Alrighty, so let's look into how we can live beyond the Golden Dawn and continue our critical practice. So, this is what we've done so far. What we've done so far of this series is we've questioned every major arcana correspondence. We've explored alternatives. We've claimed our right to think for ourselves within this tradition. Okay? And so, the ongoing work looks a bit like this. This doesn't end with this episode. Every reading is an opportunity to test, to refine, to evolve our personal system of correspondences. Okay? And so, here's some practical next steps. Return to the cards that still feel uncomfortable or opaque, and research other systems, Vedic astrology, asteroids, fixed stars, mythology, and trust your lived experience over inherited authority. Now, let's not pretend this is going to feel wonderful. That's the problem that I find with in the wellness field and in self-help and New Age, is that there's a rush to make things comfortable and easeful, and that anything uncomfortable is to be mistrusted, and that anything that makes us trust and feel safe it's wonderful, glorious. We want this. I'm not suggesting that. What I'm saying is that the rush to certainty, the rush toward confidence, the rush toward clarity, the rush toward the end, meaning the I've arrived feeling, is a bit premature. And it suggests that discomfort is something that you shouldn't trust entirely. And so, as we leave behind certainty for critical thinking, this can feel very destabilizing. Okay? This is the path of the intellectual outlaw mystic, the one who refuses the convenient answers. Okay? When you leave behind certainty, it feels uncomfortable. When you leave behind a tradition to build your own thing, it feels uncomfortable. When you question things that everybody else takes as truth, as if it's a rigid, crystallized, fixed truth, it feels uncomfortable. So if this feels uncomfortable, that is not unusual. It is perfectly natural to question. And I would be lying if I said this was easy for me. I have practiced tarot for quite a while now. It's been over a decade. And what I've learnt is it is not comfortable for me to upend the system or question it, because there's always this part of me. It's always like, well, who are you to upend things? Who are you to change things? Who are you to go against tradition? Well, I be the person that does that stuff because I've been doing it ever since I was a child. I'm always the person with the question, why? Okay, but why? Why this? Why not that? Why is the fool always Uranus or air or what have you? Who decided this? I know who decided it, but I wanted to have a better understanding. And I've got to say that through this series, I have a better understanding of the major arcana, because for me, teaching it to all of you made it more rest in me more deeply. I'm able to embody the wisdom, and it brought up things that I didn't think I would ever find if I hadn't had decided to do a series on this. And I find this teaching, which is very third house, by the way, I have a planet or two there, and bringing it down to myself, to my own lived experience, is very important. The questioning is the crucible of fire, that discomfort. And I like this idea of the questioning that I've done, and I've had to question my own biases. I've had to question my own beliefs. I had to question why I was so eager to accept something without question. It just took a while, because parts of myself had to catch up to the part that said, wait a second, we should probably make this ours. And so I'm asking, what I'm suggesting is that you make the tarot yours. You make the astrology practice yours. I am teaching this so that to inspire. So I can inspire you, uplift you to question, to ask, to say, wait a second, I've always had a problem with that card association, and here's why. And to see your feelings on the card, your thoughts on the card, and comparing it to your lived experience as a valid choice and a valid way of seeing the world. And what this could lead to, I've no idea. I don't have a clue. I have to take the walk, take the path, and see what happens. And I'm not going to say that's trust, because I am not naturally a trusting person. Yeah, I'm not sitting around in this world going, I trust everything. I'm the least trusting person that I know. I'm like, I need to see some proof. I mean, given where we are, that makes sense to me, okay? So this is just to remind you that you are not abandoning tradition here, okay? You're honoring it by engaging with it as a living, evolving conversation rather than dead doctrine. When we merely accept what we're told, that's not a living conversation. That is interacting with dead things, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't bloody well want to do it. I want to live, and I want my practices to live with me. I want to evolve, and I want my practices to evolve with me. And what I understand through this is that the path to stability, the path to security for me is always going to be, first, me reclaiming my autonomy, and secondly, my sovereignty. Now, the difference between the two is that autonomy is reacting still to a structure that is imposing itself upon you, whereas sovereignty is, I know that structure's there and I don't care. I'm still going to do me. I have a right to do me as I see fit. And tarot and astrology are part of the process to help me go from autonomy to sovereignty. And I wish the same for all of you as well. So We want this to be living doctrine. We want it to live with us in our lives, because this is very sixth house path making. This is path making, meaning making, and it's very sixth house. The sixth house is about rituals. It is about the everyday, the habits, the routines that make up the everyday, okay? And your spiritual practice should have a place of honor in the everyday, in your everyday, okay? And so this is where I leave you, star people. This is where I leave you, star people. And here's the takeaway here. The Judgment card and the World card are not endpoints. They are portals. Moments of awakening and integration. And they invite us into deeper spirals of consciousness. And if you're seeing spiral of consciousness, that is non-linear language. And sovereignty and cosmic belonging. How we assign them astrologically shapes whether we experience them as liberation or limitation. Okay? So, spend the next lunar cycle working with judgment as awakening rather than reckoning. The world as integration in motion rather than static completion. Notice how these shifts change your relationship to endings, beginnings, and the spaces in betwixt and in between. Alright, so what's next? The Beyond Golden Dawn series ends here, but your practice continues. May you forever question, imagine, and reclaim your mystical sovereignty. Okay? So, with that being said, thank you very much for listening and being here through all of this. There is a newsletter, paid and free, once again, called The Daily Stargazer. You can find this podcast episode and the previous ones in this series there, available for free if you choose to read and listen, or either or. We're on Pinterest and YouTube and Instagram. Links in the show notes for all of this stuff. Please like, please share, and please review, particularly on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, because all of that helps get the word out about the podcast and what we're trying to do here. And I appreciate you if you've already done that, and if you're going to do it, thank you very much for being here. And this is where I leave you, star people. So, signing off with rebellion, mystical integrity, and outlaw grace, because the tarot and astrology belong to those who dare to think.